Barrett, welcome.
Good morning.
You've got 10 minutes, I'm assuming.
Thank you. Hopefully I won't use all of that.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the report that's before you today. It's significantly different entering into consultation on a bunch of maybes versus being able to comment on something that is getting closer to being something specific. I'm just going to make a couple of observations regarding the report and the process, and then close with a statement regarding the possible legal position with regard to it. So the report opens with the bottom line being 3 statements: to reduce the flood risk in Flockton, to do it by August 17, and don't upset Sarah. I'll obviously paraphrase the 3 lines. But nowhere does it say anything about taking into consideration the downstream effects or the effects on other residents or the use of other residents. So it's set out from the start to move the flood risk in Flockton to somewhere else by August 17 without upsetting Sarah. The map that's up on the screen, there's a dotted line in the top left corner, and the areas circled with a red highlighter are those already identified and already being worked on to improve those catchment areas to pre-earthquake levels. Now, none of the proposals directly do anything about the downstream effect or the downstream waterways being upgraded to that same standard. Option C does by default, because option C gets to dig out the red line that's superseded over the top of the yellow line just to the right of the bottom circle, that being Dudley Creek and Stapleton's Road. The very top of the screen, the pink dot there, that's the big culvert that's going in at the moment. It's been made larger because it's economic to make it larger, and we've been told it's going to be throttled back. Obviously, we have some concerns about the day that it gets unthrottled. So our proposal generally is that, in fact, the proposal to be adopted should be option B, and that the portion of option C, being the line down Dudley Creek, down Stapleton's Road, gets improved just to provide more redundancy and resiliency to the system. The option in front of you was selected using a multi-criteria assessment, which is a bit like a weighted average. During consultation, we were not privy to the data that was used to do that. And in fact, those sort of measurements are quite easily manipulated to give you the option that a particular party might desire. It would be interesting to know how many times that multi-criteria assessment was run before it came up with the right result. Now, some would dispute that there was no right result, but to us as residents, it was fairly evident that option A was taken off the table pretty much because of the opposition of the residents there. Option B wasn't favoured because it's a bit difficult to go through the red zone and therefore not so easy to do. And if we want to hit August 17, doesn't option C look pretty good? So our view is we believe that the multi-criteria assessment was set up in such a way as to achieve the desired result. There are a number of things within the report where it says that option B doesn't put another community at risk of flooding. To me, that implies that options A and C do. Under option C, one of the cons is an added risk that the modelling assumptions are incorrect. So it actually states as a report that there is a risk. Now, modelling is a black art. I'm sure there'll be an engineer stand up here today and tell you it isn't. But my colleagues tell me that traffic modelling, water modelling, any of those things are a black art. But that modelling is the basis of the report. It's the modelling that substantiates why this is a good option. Option C also recognises a perceived flood migration problem to Stapleton's Road. So it says there's a perceived risk there, but it doesn't actually address it. It doesn't say whether it's been mitigated, whether it was taken into account and discarded is not relevant, nothing in particular. In a couple of sections around item 4, 4.3.1 says there's added relief under section in option C. There isn't actually any added relief. All it's doing is mitigating the downstream effects of the already existing upstream improvements. 4.3.4 talks about resilience, and it says all of the options are equal. But in fact, if you take option B with Dudley downstream as resilience, then that option is significantly better from a technical perspective. 4.3.6 says that C is the most disruptive for residents. We accept that, that's why we don't like it. 4.3.7 states that B is the most favoured. So this is all starting to look like maybe B is the best option. The document talks about the submitters. And for some reason it actually uses the number of people submitted as part of the multi-criteria assessment. Also, for some reason, all of the identifiers are taken off. I would have expected that when we made submissions and consultation, that we were in fact in the public domain. But instead, we become number 45 or 46 or 58 or 90 something. 4.5.3 says 136 submissions, including a joint submission from 19 residents. Yet number 98, whoever 98 was, stated they represented 52 residents and gave their names, and 125 represented 80 people. So there's somewhere around about 180 to 190 people in total who actually supported B, but that doesn't get recorded accurately and it doesn't get stated. Item 6.2 says there's the potential in the future to provide more relief in the north, but it doesn't actually say what that's going to do about the issues in the south. 6.27 admits there's direct property impacts using C. So many comments in the report indicate that August 17 is the main criteria and that better solutions are ignored because they don't provide the ability to meet that date. So what we'd like to do as residents is put a stake in the ground that says if you choose option C today, you've created a legal situation where if we get flooded in 10, 5, 15 years, then we can come back and say, you actually put that Flockton problem into our backyard and you are therefore liable for it. So what we're really saying is, can you please take account of all of the consultation that was put in? There were a number of people who just said, I like option C with no details. You'd have to suspect they lived in Banks Avenue and were saying, not us. We had a direct approach from Banks Avenue saying, whatever you do, if you don't like it, don't choose us. No, don't choose A, choose B if you don't want to choose your own backyard. And there were no identifiers, so we can't say for sure that's the case, but I suspect it could well be, because there were one-line submissions that said, we like option C. So what I'm asking is, that section of Dudley Creek probably should be getting upgraded the same way that those to the left in my diagram were St Albans Stream and the other one, which I think is actually Dudley at this stage. So the piece of Dudley from Randall South should be getting upgraded anyway. Do that. Then do option B and accept the fact that it might be a bit more difficult to go and try and get around or through the red zone. But why drop that challenge just in order to make us more at risk? And that is basically our view of the report. Thank you.
Questions? Phil, Ellie, your name.
Thank you for your interpretation. I just look in relation to your point about moving the flood risk to your area. On the attachment for us on page 293, and I'm sure Terry would have seen this too, there's clear reference that none of the options would increase the flood risk in other areas, and that was using the model that was done. So that's clear in our reports. I'm just wondering if you would comment on that part of the report.
That assumes, in another part of the report, I can't put, it also states, providing their assumptions about digging out that section of statements are correct. off Dudley. So to me, there's just too much uncertainty around that. And in fact, what we're proposing is a fourth option, effectively, that is better than any of the three on their own, by having the redundancy or resiliency of having extra water flow south.
Ali?
Pauline can go ahead. I think we're on the same page.
Oh, thanks, Sally. Thanks for your deputation and coming in, and you came to the community board last week as well, and that was good. If you were or could be convinced that there was no risk to flooding in your area in Stapleton's Road as a result of these works, surely you would see the benefit of gaining a really enhanced waterway. And you mentioned that you think all the other streams should be enhanced anyway, but you would be the benefactor of having an enhanced waterway. So how do you feel about that?
I think parts of the report are a little misleading about that, because when I spoke to the green space people at a consultation, I was there for about an hour, they actually admitted that the only enhancements that are going to be done on that piece are where they widen it. So it creates the impression they're going to enhance the whole waterway and plant it all and landscape it and make it all look nice. But then they specifically said, well, in reality, we're only going to do that bit, that bit, and that bit. And to me, that's not very clear in any of the documentation.
But at least, how would you feel about some of it being enhanced as opposed to zero, should the project be successful?
So I think we're trying to propose the option that's of the least risk to us, and I don't see how option C could ever be the least risk to us. Option A and option B both initially take all the water away from us, and we will only get extra water from that if they fail. Whereas option C puts the water straight through to us, and if there's any sort of failure, it's directly in our yard already.
I think it's interesting that you seem to be conveying a great deal of doubt about the engineers' reports and the multi-criteria assessments, and yet you point out should you favour option B and option A over yours, and yet you say if they should fail then you would flood. So do you know what I mean? I think that I'm asking you if you can say anything positive perhaps about the option C, and as how you would be the recipient of some benefit.
But I believe that the benefits that we potentially get from option C should be done anyway under our proposal. So in fact we do get some enhancement of that piece of Dudley Creek.
Oh yeah,
and some landscape.
that would be nice, but we'd love to redesign it and beautify all the waterways in Christchurch, and we're proud of our waterways, we want to be, but it's simply, what's practical here.
Okay, so the other possibility, we don't beautify it, just bring it back up to pre-earthquake standards. That in itself would be an advantage.
Okay, thank you.
Well, look, thank you very much. Did you want to?
No, Pauline's covered it.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks, Clary.